Hi everyone, today I'll be using Tombstone from PAA and I will be talking about the Earps and the gunfight at the vacant light at the end of Fremont Street. Yeah, stay tuned. John Bonham here, Cape Cod Wetshaving. I'm back. Another history shave, everybody. Really good one. It's a request. Let me get through the coffee of the day. Toasted coconut mocha from Starbucks. I am over the moon for this. This is the first time in a long time, since Christmas, I think, since I've had a Starbucks coffee that I really liked. I wasn't even halfway done with that bag. I went out and bought another one. It's really good, surprisingly. Even my wife loves it, and she's not a fan of coconut. So it's coconut and cocoa. If you see it on the shelf, I recommend it. Really yummy. I drink coffee black, as you know, so very flavorful. Alrighty. So today's shave. I've been waiting for this one for a while. I haven't done a history shave in going on 3 weeks now, but I've been waiting to do this one for probably about a month and a half. So the set I will be using was sent to me from Carlos Shaves. From Carlos at Shave on Gents on Instagram. Awesome guy, one of the best dudes that I know on there in the community, giving literally and figuratively. But he sent me this specifically for this history shave. He requested it. It is Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements Tombstone. I'd never used it, and I have the matching splash for that because he is a scholar and a gentleman. He sent me the entire set. My pre-shave, lather and wood, unscented pre-shave oil, one of my favorites. And coincidentally, because of the scent notes of the soap, and it matched, I'm using 345 soaps, Aces over 8s, post-shave balm with that, okay? So the scent profile, the scent notes of Tombstone are gunpowder, leather, tobacco, geranium, bergamot, and white rose, all right? This has tobacco, tonka, amber, and a couple other notes in it. I didn't write this one down, but I do know for a fact it has those in it because I went looking for a balm specifically with tobacco forward notes in it for this. Almost used Moon Soap's tobacco flower, but didn't quite capture the same essence because this is tobacco leaf. So the razor I'll be using is this close to using my black handle Gillette Slim flare tip that a friend of mine sent to me who wishes to remain anonymous. Most people want to remain anonymous on here. I swear I'm not doing that on purpose. I'm just trying to abide by their wishes. But I almost grabbed it, and then I decided to use my latest acquisition from Cobble Hill Farm Soap Company. All right, this one I was literally grabbing my Gillette, and I look over, and then I saw this one, and I was like, that looks an awful lot like the grip of a revolver or a custom revolver or something similar. So I'm like, you know what, that'll fit. Went in with the shave of the day photo, which is on my Instagram. Please go give me a follow if you'd like. I usually don't brag about my photos, but the one I did, I was very happy with the result. Every now and then I'll hit one that I'm like, wow, that looks good. So, worked out. Oh, and for the blades, only because they matched and because I haven't used them in a while, the Bolzano's Superinox. I can't pronounce that. Bolzano. I do know that. So, these blades are all right. They're not terrible. John's razors are a little on the milder side, so it's going to be a smooth shave. Let me wet my face and I'll get lathering, guys. So, the reason I called it the Earps and the gunfight at the vacant lot on Fremont Street is because that's technically what it should be called. So, Carlos requested, I got water on the floor. I'm trying to see if I had a spare towel I could throw down. My feet stick to the floor, it drives me bonkers. But anyway, so it's called the Gunfight at the OK Corral. Carlos had requested a Tombstone, White Earp, Gunfight at OK Corral-esque history shave. Hence this. Very gunpowder forward. Get the geranium. Definitely get the leather. Definitely get the tobacco. I do get the Geranium or the White Rose. I can't tell which one it is. Floral. I think it's the Geranium. Alright, making sure I'm not stuffed up. I just hopped out of the shower, and so I take really hot showers, so the steam gives me a runny nose temporarily. As dumb as that sounds. So, this being a history shave, I don't mind doing awesome subjects that are well known, but I do try to nudge in the direction of the lesser known, so I decided to do more unknown facts that have to do with the Earps, Tombstone, the Gunfight, all that, okay? At the end of this, I'm going to yet again recommend a book. So there are over 60 movies and over 1,000 books written about the Earps, Tombstone, OK Corral, Gunfight. The book I'm going to recommend isn't like any that I came across because it generally goes against the facts, okay? What I'm going to tell you is not going to go with what you probably know. I am a huge fan of Tombstone. I am obsessed with that movie. I have the bloody hat, okay? I know that's for V for Vendetta, but it's the same style hat. It's not your typical cowboy hat. Where was I? Oh, Tombstone is one of the most historically inaccurate movies about the subject, unfortunately. Wyatt Earp was a little bit more accurate. Don't like it as much as Tombstone. Not nearly as much, I'll be honest. So, what I'm going to tell you is, for the most part, I do try to make sure, I do always try to make sure that I am getting as factual as I can. And what I'm going to tell you is not the norm, okay? In fact, what we know about Wyatt Earp today is actually thanks to Josie, his widow, who, upon his death, after his death, posthumously, after death, I'm very good with my vocabulary. It bugs me when I can't pronounce a word. She built up the legend of Wyatt Earp. So what we know now is really thanks to her, to Josie, which is funny because they really didn't get along. So anyway, so there's stuff I'm going to spoil that was in the movie. Much like Braveheart, there was never a prima nocta. That never happened. Longshanks never did that in the movie. So stuff like that. That's what's going to... So if you go, but in the movie, they just remember it's a movie. So anyway, let us get started. So Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp, 7 minutes in, not bad, was born March 19th, 1848 in Monmouth, Illinois. Okay, there is Wyatt Earp with his mom, Virginia. He was supposedly quite close with his mother, and for the most part got along with his dad. And I cannot remember his dad's name off the top of my head. I should have written it down, but that's all right. So when I was talking to Carlos, right off the cuff, I told him, hey, I'm going to try to do lesser known stuff, such as the fact that, there should have been a brother named James in the movie of Tombstone. He was like, I didn't know that. I went, yeah, okay. Well, I was a little correct, because it turns out Wyatt Earp was the 4th out of 8. Yeah, 8 children. But he had 8 siblings, so he had 1 half-brother, okay? Virgil was not the oldest brother. The longest time I thought Virgil was the oldest. So, I'm going to list them off real quick, okay? His siblings and half-siblings, singular. Newton Jasper Earp, who was his half-brother, born 1837. Mariah Ann Earp, born 1838. James Cooksey Earp, born 1841. Virgil Walter Earp, born 1843. Not nearly enough water. Martha Elizabeth Earp, born 1845. Don't worry, I'll get this lather better. I'm just distracted. Morgan Seth Earp. Yes, that Morgan. Born 1851. Warren Baxter Earp, born 1855. Virginia Ann Earp, born 1858. Adelia Douglas Earp, born 1861. Holy crap. A lot of Earps. Earps everywhere. So, Warren Earp and James Earp actually assist. I won't get ahead of myself. Sorry. And each one of most of the Earps, not all of them, but most of them went on and had adventures of their own. So, It wasn't just that they were related to White. They actually went off and did their own thing, and they all have pretty interesting stories. In fact, I'm thinking of doing a history shave about one man in particular. And I'll get to that in a second. Oh, I didn't tell you the brush I'm using. The Star Wisp. I almost called it the Astro Wisp. All right. Build that up a little better. So, Wyatt was named for his father's commander in the Mexican-American War, which I think is pretty neat. So here's a photo of Wyatt Earp. This is one of my favorite photos of him. He was about 21 in this photo. Handsome devil. I say that about everybody, but he was a handsome rogue, as they would say. Very Errol Flynn of me, but whatever. The handsome rogue thing, if you don't know who Errol Flynn is. He got his first job in law enforcement in 1870. Okay, so there's some stuff here that might piss off some more Wyatt Earp people that I'm going to get into. But again, history doesn't take sides. He left the job in 1871 after being accused of mishandling, quotations used, mishandling public funds. That could mean embezzlement. That could mean he just took coffers and spent them on it, you know, the money on himself. Who knows? So in the Old West days, at this time, this era in the United States, corruption was literally everywhere. And just because you were wanted in one state, sorry about the water, didn't mean really anything as if you went to the next state. So the union was just like that. So if you were wanted in, let's say, New York State, leave New York State, go to Jersey, you're good to go. If they catch you in Jersey, they can extradite you, but just as long as you kept your nose clean, you're fine. Very gunpowder forward, by the way, this soap. Very much so. I like it. It's very different. It would almost be barbershopish if it weren't for that gunpowder, I think, and the leather. It's trying to be sweet, but it's really toned down by the gunpowder and the leather. So, all right. That same year, he was arrested for stealing horses in what is now Oklahoma, although the case never went to trial. So he was arrested for horse thievery, but he was never brought up on those charges, which is weird. Be a fact, it's kind of the equivalent of stealing a car today, except a little more strict. If you were a horse thief, they usually hanged you. There's a lot back in those days they'd hang you for. Quite a bit. So in 1872, he was an enforcer in a brothel. He moved to Wichita, Kansas in 1874 and became a lawman there in 1875. He was an assistant marshal. Okay, he nearly beat a man to death in a fist fight, and people got a little pissed off at him for that. Because I would imagine if he almost beat him to death, he probably had the guy down and kept wailing on him. And due to that, he ended up leaving. Okay? He became a marshal in Dodge City afterwards. So Dodge City is where Dodge City was known as the rowdiest little city in the West, something like that. I should have written that down. I didn't think I needed to. But it was basically a pretty lawless town. Earp met John Henry Doc Holliday in Texas in 1878, and they became friends through the gambling circuit. So this was hard for me to do because like I say, I always have to omit things for time. But I was all over the road here. There's so much that I omitted about each one of these guys. I could do a history shave with pretty much every one of these guys. Sheriff Johnny Behan, Doc Holliday, Virgil Earp. Virgil Earp, if you can believe it, had more experience in being a lawman than Wyatt did. Again, Josie built up that legend. But Virgil was a lawman sooner and longer than Wyatt was. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, meanwhile, silver was discovered near a small town in Arizona in 1877. It would quickly grow to become one of the richest towns in the Southwest. I bet you can tell me what the name of that town was. That's right, Phoenix. I'm kidding, obviously, it's Tombstone. All right? It's a stupid joke. I was even writing that down, like, should I crack a joke? And then this was last night. My brain was like, nah, don't do that. That's dumb. And I still did it. All right. So before moving to Tombstone, Earp was facing several lawsuits alleging that he stole money and falsified court documents. All right. Here's a photo of Tombstone, by the way. I should have written down the name of the street. I did not. I forget what it was. It's basically the equivalent of the main street, I believe. So again, my intent is not to slander anyone. I am merely stating the facts as I came across them. If it's anything that I'm unsure of, I do try to seek out at least one ulterior source to make sure that I'm not putting my foot in my mouth and looking like an imbecile and misreporting something. So bear with me. All right. I feel like I'm not doing this lather any justice, really. It's either too dry or too wet. Too thin. I'll thicken it up here in just a second. All right. 16 minutes. Gotta hurry up. I got 3 pages. Told you I did. And that was me holding back 3 pages. All right. He had once escaped jail and was arrested and fined for frequenting brothels. So interesting. Just got a message, sorry. Interesting that you can be fined and arrested for frequenting brothels, because brothels were quite literally everywhere. Very strange. So, the feud between the Earps and the Clanton-McLaury gang, right, had actually been instigated by the Earp brothers. So if you remember in Tombstone, the cowboys were douchebags and shooting up weddings. I think that actually did happen. I don't know if it was at a wedding, but I do know they ambushed a federale for something they did in Mexico. I think they did that a couple times. I might be mistaken. But the Tombstone equivalent of the Red Wedding, I don't think actually happened. I might be wrong. So here's a photo of the Clanton-McLaurys, and you can see it's labeled. Everyone knows Ike Clanton. He was not as cowardly as portrayed in the movie. He did run during the end of the OK Corral shootout. He and who else? The McLaury brothers were killed. Billy Clanton was killed. It was Ike and someone else who ran for the hills. They survived because they ran. And I think that's where it came into play. But the Clantons and the McLaurys were cowboys. Duh. They owned and lived on a ranch outside of town. They were cattle rustlers, thieves, and murderers. And they also viewed themselves as the outfit that unofficially ran the town. Now, an interesting side note of this is that a lot of the townsfolk were actually pretty pissed off at the Earps after the shootout. The Clantons and the McLaurys were actually, not fully, not throughout the town, but I mean, they were pretty well respected, because what led to the start was them coming into town getting supplies. So they stole, and they were, you know, cattle rustlers and thieves. But the money and the revenue obviously went to the town if they're coming into town. So I think maybe they helped the town a little bit, the townsfolk. I don't know. I mean, it was a silver mining town, so it was a rich town either way. I don't think they single-handedly supported it, but I think they viewed a lot of what the Earps did as injustice. And so based on that, they were supported by probably a pretty wide margin, surprisingly. So the Earps, a large portion of the Earp family had congregated, gone to Tombstone by the time Wyatt moved there in 1879. Okay, he bought real estate, businesses, and his brother Virgil became the town marshal. Now, as far as he became town marshal, I don't think it was the way they depicted it in the movie. Maybe it was. I mean, there's no diary entry of Virgil Earp going, here's why I became town marshal. But I would imagine it would be more to do with status. Because of who they were. They were known for being lawmen. Hell, he was probably even offered the job, and he took it. It's really just a place of power. Okay? The gang viewed the Earps as encroaching on their territory. All right? Now, for their part, the Earps, the brothers, they had earned a reputation for being power-hungry, ruthless, and overall bullies. I could see that. Most sources, and something I had read a long time ago, long before I decided to do this, had stated that Wyatt Earp was kind of a bit of a douchebag. Very arrogant. You know, my way or the highway, which is, you know, that's where you had to be back then, I'm sure. Not trying to knock the man, I'm just saying what I have read and come across. Or slander the man, not knock the man. That doesn't make any sense. But I did read that in quite a few sources, actually. So on the morning of October 25th, 1881, Ike Clanton and Tom McLowry rode into town for supplies. For the majority of the day, they had several major run-ins with the Earps and Doc Holliday. It started with Doc Holliday. What really started culminating it was later in the day, Billy Clanton rode into town. First person he ran into was Doc Holliday, and Doc Holliday supposedly gleefully informed him that the Earps had pistol whipped his brother. Okay? At around 3 p.m. on October 26, 1881, the Earps and Holliday confronted the Clanton-McLowry gang in a vacant lot behind the OK Corral. So it was not actually at the corral itself. It was in a vacant lot behind it on Fremont Street. Okay? Historically, it was in response to threats the men had been making towards the brothers throughout the day. So it wasn't that they were, as far as I can read, again, it wasn't because they were carrying in town. I'm sure that had something to do with it a little. But it was more that the Clanton-McLowrys had been walking around all day telling anyone who would listen, we're going to get the Earps, those pieces of blah, 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 bleepity bleep, scumbags, and this, that, and the other. And basically their egos, I think, got the better of them. They were tired of, not even egos, just they were sick of listening to their mouths. So they quite literally showed up and was like, what the problem is. And the rest became history, literally. All right. So here's a photo of the OK Corral post-fire. It did not burn during the gunfight, or because of the gunfight. It actually burned, I think, like 6 years later. I think this photo was taken in like 1887, 86, something like that. But I found it to be kind of symbolic. All right. Now I'm getting good lather, and I'm almost done. I do need to do a Doc Holliday history shave. He's just really well known. I might just leave it at that. I do want to do another one. I'll mention it here in a second. So, the actual gunfight lasted only 30 seconds, and around 30 rounds were shot. All right. It is still not, 30 rounds were fired. It is still not known who fired the first. Okay? But there are two separate accounts a majority of eyewitnesses agreed upon. One was that Virgil Earp walked right up to Billy Clanton and just point blank shot him in the chest, killed him on the spot. Who knows? Second was that Doc Holliday had walked up and shot one of the McLaurys in the chest with a shotgun. Either way, it would appear that the Earps instigated the fight and fired the first shot. I have no idea. All right. Oh, there's a painting. One of many, many artworks and illustrations done about the subject. I got a page left. I am going to pause here. Leather comes out more prominent. I meant to say this a while ago. When you lather it, and the geranium is absolutely there. Without a doubt, it's geranium. I'm sure the rose is in there somewhere, but I definitely get the geranium. All right. It's Phoenix soap. You know how it performs. The scent, it's not going to be for everyone. All right. If you're not leather heavy, the leather's not too over the top. It is not, let's say, Batters Up from Noble Otter. That is extremely leather heavy. Aged Leather from Subtle Art Soap. That one I like a little more than the Noble Otter. The Noble Otter one, I don't dislike it. I actually, I take it back. I'm not sure if I like it or not. No offense to anyone who does like it. It's just it's the most leather heavy scent that I have, I think. So it's not that, but you are going to have the gunpowder in there too. It's like the smell of fireworks without the sulfur. Smoky fireworks without the stink, I guess. So, all right. I got to hurry, 26 minutes. So the gunfight did not end the feud. In December 1881, Virgil Earp was ambushed and wounded. We know this from the movie. In March 1882, it wasn't the same night. All right, it was months later. Morgan Earp, who was purportedly Wyatt's favorite brother, was fatally shot while playing billiards. Okay. Afterwards, from March 20th to April 15th, 1882, which was about 2 days, all right, starting 2 days after Morgan was murdered, Wyatt, his brothers Warren and James, see, they were not in the movie. They assisted him in the vendetta rite. Warren and James, Doc Holliday, Sherman McMasters, Turkey Creek Johnson, and my favorite, Texas Jack Vermillion, participated in what would become the vendetta rite. I want to do a history shave about Texas Jack. Out of everyone I've talked about, he's the one I find the most badass, and I want to do a history shave about him. So I think I'm going to do that soon. 4 cowboys. Oh, what am I doing? Picture's gone. 4 cowboys were confirmed to have unequivocally died at the hands of the posse. All right, there's a lot of killing, but there were 4 historically proven without a doubt, okay, that were linked to the vendetta posse. A 5th, Johnny Ringo, died under mysterious circumstances. He was found shot in the head underneath a large tree, just like the movie. The movie said it was Doc Holliday that did it. Historically, they believe it was either Wyatt Earp or Doc Holliday. His pistol was out of his hand, so he had fired 1 shot. So what they did in the movie was actually based upon the historic event, that he was just found slumped against a tree, gunshot to the head, 1 round spent, not in the chamber of his revolver drawn in his hand. For whatever reason, they didn't think it was suicide. I forget why it wasn't ruled as suicide, but generally agreed. Let me rinse off. I'm starting to dry. Give me 1 sec. I'll be right back. Alrighty. Gonna be a long one again. That's all right. After the ride, Wyatt was accused of and wanted for murder. It's one thing they didn't mention in the movie. That was a posse. It was not sanctioned. He was not allowed to do what he did. He was riding around shooting whoever he wanted to willy-nilly. So he did become wanted in a few states. He ended up fleeing to Colorado, which is where where Doc Holliday passed away at a sanatorium. He then went to several boom towns out west. He eventually settled in California, was able to support himself with police work, gambling, mining, and real estate. So he actually still did pretty well for himself. He was well known by then, definitely. I mean, he was well known after Dodge City, but certainly well known after Tombstone and the vendetta ride and all that. So he did contact a writer to do his memoirs. And those were published in the early 1900s, like 1904, I think. And he ended up dying in Los Angeles, January 13th, 1929, at the age of 80 years old. Okay. I do want to mention the book. So the book is called Epitaph, a novel of the OK Corral by Mary Doria Russell. That's the book cover. Okay. The reason I like this book and what got my attention was that she broke the mold with going against most of what is written about him. For instance, she claims that Doc Holliday and Wyatt were actually not close friends. They were friendly, but they were not the closest friends. One statement went so far as to even say that Wyatt viewed Doc Holliday as unreliable, which kind of makes some sense, because if you're falling out of your saddle every now and then due to your illness, because he had tuberculosis, you know, you wouldn't handpick that guy to go with you. You might out of loyalty, but he would be more of a hindrance. Another stated that the Cowboy Earp vendetta, or a Cowboy Earp feud, was based on a plan that had fallen through involving a murder or something like that. I'd have to go back and read it. I don't want to misquote it. Oh, it smells good. Another was that Wyatt was pretty corrupt. Just a bunch of stuff that's really interesting. And the police were really corrupt and all that stuff. But go check out that book. I'll link it below. It looks interesting. I do want to get it, I think. Definitely make for an interesting read. So, and I did want to mention the thing with the, in Iron Springs, when they had the shootout in the water with Curly Bill Brosius. That did happen. Curly Bill was actually the first one to be killed during that confrontation. And in fact, if you see a photo of Curly Bill, you can see where he gets his name. He had straight up Jerry curls, man. So that'll do that, or that will do it for that one. I'm going to be over. That's all right. Carlos, this one was fun, dude. It was just, I was pulling my hair out a little bit because there was so much that I wanted to add that I had to omit. And there's just so much to go through for this topic, but it was a lot of fun. Very cool. And like I always do, whether I want to or not, I learned stuff that I did not know. I had no idea Wyatt Earp had so many damn siblings. No clue. Oops. So that's very cool. Very interesting. But, yep, that'll do it for the history shave. And that'll do it for my shave. If you're a leather fan, you might like this one, but just remember it's very gunpowder forward. Very gunpowder leathery forward. So not for everyone, this soap. I like it. I like it a lot. This balm, I think, was the perfect choice. It added, because of that amber and tonka and the tobacco, it just topped it off with a sweet tobacco scent to the end of it, which really, I think, was perfect. Oh, man. I wouldn't mind a balm with some of these. Good stuff. All right, that'll do it. Thank you for watching, especially if you watched to the end. I have since given up trying to do less than 30 minutes. They just run long. If I don't do it justice, or I will not do it justice if I do less than 30 minutes, I guess, as it turns out, for these topics. Because I'll just fire off 4 facts and then that's the end of it. So it is what it is. This one went a little longer, but whatever. Not bad for 3 pages. Bunch of stuff, man. Lots and lots and lots of stuff. Lots of scribbles. So hope you enjoyed that one. I certainly did. Thanks again, Carlos. I think that'll just about do it. Take one more drink of coffee. Call it a good one. Thank you very much. Baby's right around the corner. I am going to try like hell to keep doing history shaves. Once, because Jess will be home for maternity leave for quite a while. So, really for my own sanity, I think I'll just do them, just to do them. So, we'll see. They might slow down, but I'll try to still fire off one a week. Really appreciate it, everyone, especially if you watch to the very end. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone who returns to watch these, it means the world to me. I've told you that before, but I just got to emphasize that. Yeah, that's really it. So, thank you again. Y'all take care. Beautiful weather here. Hope you have the same. If not, let's wait for it. Enjoy each other's company and all that. Happy spring. And until next time, happy shaving. Take it easy.